Hello everybody. This is the first time I've been outside with the Osmo Pocket 3 for 2 months, and I've not held a still camera for the same amount of time, and that's down to me coming to terms with this autoimmune condition that I've developed. Now that's partly out of fear, I'll be honest with you, and partly from fatigue. The fear aspect comes in because this myasthenia does affect my eyesight, and there are occasions when I can get double vision. So I deliberately avoided using a still camera. But I wanted to make this video partly because of the fact I've had a couple of months away from taking any still images at all, and partly to address the worry that I'm going through. It all sort of boils down to the same thing, I guess. I'm concerned about my photography, and I'm also concerned about the state of photography worldwide. You'll have to forgive the watery eyes. That's partly down to the fact it's incredibly cold this morning, and partly because it's a byproduct of this condition that I have to put up with from now on. Yeah, I'm concerned about the state of photography worldwide. I don't want to come across as being all holier than thou or too good, too big for my boots kind of thing. Certainly not trying to be that. But I'm going to do a large chunk of this video from the comfort of my lounge and talk you through some of the images that concern me. Because throughout the 20th century, which is the century in which I was born, and I guess an awful lot of us watching this video would probably have been born in the 20th century as well. For a lot of the 20th century, there were, I guess you'd say, a handful, maybe a dozen, of world-class, renowned photographers working in various genres, whether it be fashion or reportage, war photography, sports photography. And I'm asking myself now, in 2025, nearly 2026, where are they all? Where are the new world-class photographers? So I'm going to go through some images with you now and let you decide whether photography in 2025/26 is in danger, because I think it is. I'll talk to you after we've gone through these photos. Well, here we are in the warmth and comfort of my living room in front of the Mac, and you've obviously already seen the thumbnail, and this is the photograph which I featured in the thumbnail, and there's a specific reason for me doing this, and I wanted to be upfront and honest with everybody because it kind of fits in with what my concerns are at the moment with the state of photography. This photograph was taken in 2021 during our second period of lockdown over the COVID pandemic, and the figure wasn't there. I have inserted the figure in post-production, so the photograph is a lie. It's a composite. So what I'm going to do now is to talk you through world-renowned and well-respected photographers whose work I personally admire, and some of the so-called renowned photographers according to Google. Google gave me these photographers as being world-renowned. Now, there's a couple that I would agree with, mainly because I've heard of them. The first is Annie Leibovitz. Now, Annie has been around for a long time. I think she was born in the 1940s. I might be wrong there. An extremely talented photographer. Out of all the images that I've seen of hers recently, this one of Willie Nelson I find really, really powerful. It shows the character of the man, his trademark long hair, the unshaven appearance, the denim jacket. It's got it all for me. The other well-known photographer who I have heard of is Steve McCurry. And although I don't know his work particularly well, obviously National Geographic photographer, etc., etc., the most famous image of his is this one, the Afghan girl, which of course did spark a lot of controversy fairly recently. Allegedly, she was less than happy when she realised that the photograph was printed and viewed all around the world. But nevertheless, my goodness me, that is an incredibly striking image. The next well-regarded photographer, Jeff Wall, this image is called simply Milk. I just think, yeah, okay, but is it the kind of thing that I would personally feel really pleased to have taken? Not really a strong enough image for me. And then moving on to this next photographer, this is a self-portrait, which I believe is what the lady is famous for, Cindy Sherman. She makes these sort of montages, collages almost of her own face. I guess there are probably, 5 or 6 different images of her here, all blended into one. And it seems to me that that's all she does. Now, okay, fair enough, each to their own, but personally, I'm not going to say that I would take her and put her up as a world-renowned photographer, not based on this. And neither is this one from Andreas Gursky, who I believe is very famous for these super large prints. Again, montages of, in this case, I presume, high-rise apartment blocks from goodness knows where. They could be anywhere in the world, I guess. But that apparently is the kind of thing that he is most famous for. Now, in my book, there have been a number of really important 20th century photographers, some of which sadly are no longer with us. The image that I have absolutely desecrated is the one I'm going to show you next, and it was taken by this man, Karsh of Ottawa. And he is incredibly well known for the photograph of Winston Churchill, which was taken when Churchill was over in North America during the Second World War. And Karsh himself has said that he told, or rather asked, Winston to remove his very famous cigar from his mouth or his hand because the smoke was going to interfere with the exposure, and Winston basically refused. So according to Karsh himself, he simply walked up to Winston and removed the cigar, which allegedly is where you get this very, very stern expression coming across. You can see the displeasure in Winston's eyes, can't you? But this whole thing about artificial intelligence, AI, I simply put this into ChatGPT and said, please make the gentleman smile. And within a minute, I had desecrated one of the most important portraits of one of the most important figures in British history. we've now got a smiling Winston Churchill. But doesn't it alter the appearance of the photograph? And just the same as with my image of the silhouette at the top of the escalator in Liverpool 1, I have completely changed the appearance of this particular image, and it's absolutely appalling. And this is part of my concern, because if we scan through a few images taken by other well-known photographers, I'm going to start off with one of my all-time heroes, and that's this gentleman here, Bert Stern. Now, Bert was working in the 50s and 60s. He's very well known for taking photographs of, amongst others, Marilyn Monroe. And this, I believe, is what is the last portrait session that he did with her before, sadly, she took her own life. From the very first moment that I saw this particular advertising photograph, first of all, I'm going to show you how he was positioned to take the photograph. So here he is in the desert with his Hasselblad, I guess a 500C at that time. So he's got it down on the ground, resting on something for support, not a tripod, looks like a book to me. And he's obviously carefully framing the subject. And he was hired to do an advertising photograph for Smirnoff vodka. And this is all his own thinking, by the way. This is the image that he came up with, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. It's phenomenal because of A, the location in front of one of the Great Pyramids in Egypt. It's phenomenal because of the light, and it's phenomenal because of his choice of distance, both the distance of his camera from the glass and the distance of the glass from the pyramid, because he had to have those three things worked out in order to get the inverted pyramid refracted in the glass of Smirnoff vodka. I think it's just an absolutely outstanding piece of photographic work. Thinking about timing, there's a gentleman that I had the pleasure to meet in Liverpool many years ago, and that's this gentleman, Lord Lichfield, Patrick Lichfield. Sadly no longer with us. Now, Patrick, Lord Lichfield, was fortunate because he was related to the royal family, and he had access to not only other members of the royal family, both in this country and abroad, but he also had access to very famous people in theatre. This is a lovely photograph of Jacqueline Bisset, classic, beautifully lit, fantastic pose, just classic Lichfield. But in terms of timing, now this one of Joanna Lumley, I would imagine, I have to be fair and honest with everybody, and I would imagine that he was shooting with a motor-driven camera. I fail to believe that this was taken with the first series of shots that he took. Let's say it was shooting at 5 frames a second. That's being pretty optimistic. But I reckon even at 5 frames a second, he would have been very lucky to get that walking cane perfectly vertical at the first attempt. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe it did work out that well, but what a fantastic idea and what a beautiful end result. Now, I have to say that photographers like this, the Patrick Lichfields, the David Baileys, the Richard Avedons, were very fortunate because they were mixing in the circles where famous people were always seen and were always wanting to be photographed. Now, I think this is the main area where things have changed in the 21st century. We now seem to be a society which is more concerned about celebrity over fame and over talent. And it is something which I think is lacking now in our 21st century photography. I despair. I honestly despair. And I do believe that photography, if it isn't already in crisis, it is at the point of being in crisis. Because I personally don't think that anybody can now regard it as an art form in its own right. And I'm waiting for the hate comments to come rolling in. I'm sure they will. So that's enough of me waffling on. I'm starting to get my hoarse voice because of this condition I've inherited. I'm going to wind this section up now, and I'll hand you back to my outdoor self. So there you are. My thoughts on photography. No doubt a lot of you will have quite strong opinions, and I want to hear all of them, either in agreement or strong disagreement, in the comments down below, because I think an awful lot of it has been influenced and affected by social media and by the glut, really, of imagery that each and every one of us in the developed world is subjected to on a daily, if not hourly basis. I have grave concerns. AI, as I've hopefully demonstrated, can be disastrous. It's time, I believe, for all of us to get back to the more basic aspects of photography. Leave out the gimmicky bits. There's an awful lot of manipulation that goes on with our photography, and I just wonder, would some of those greats that I've already mentioned, would some of them smile and want to use it themselves, or would they regard it as desecration? Let me know what you think. In the meantime, I'm going to say, enjoy your photography. I hope to get out with a stills camera in 2026. But whatever happens, stay safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.